Roughly 1.4 million Americans are now facing day 22 of being furloughed or working without pay. And if Congress doesn't fund the government in the next several days, many will miss their first full paycheck. Times are running out for 42 million Americans who rely on SNAP benefits to feed their families. Money for the food assistance program runs out next month, and WIC, which helps nearly 7 million pregnant women, new moms, and children, could also run out of money in weeks. Democratic Whip Congresswoman Katherine Clark is joining us now. Congresswoman, first off, just how much of an Obamacare subsidy extension is acceptable to Democratic leadership?
Yeah, listen, I will tell you the same thing that we have been telling the American people and the Republicans here in Congress. Come and negotiate with us. Let's figure this out. We are desperately trying to get them to return to the Capitol to do their jobs and come and negotiate and avoid this healthcare crisis that they have imposed on the American people. But we are not being met with anything that we can accept, reject, continue to work on together. They're just absolutely refusing to even come to Washington. And it is such arrogance, it is such disdain for the people who sent them there, that their response is, listen, we passed our budget. And we took tremendous cuts from healthcare, from the food programs you just referenced, in order to fund permanent tax breaks for the very wealthiest Americans and corporations. And we are not going to come even to the table to discuss how we can reprioritize the needs of American people who are telling us over and over they are not making it in this economy. So come to the table, let's have those discussions. I wish we had some offer, even the promise of getting together in order to make those discussions happen and get us to solutions.
Okay, I didn't hear an answer to the question, but I want to ask you about something else, which is White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt just posted a clip of an interview that you did on Fox last week. You were answering a question from Fox's Chad Pergram about blame for the shutdown. I want to look at the post here.
I mean, shutdowns are terrible. And of course, there will be families that are going to suffer. We take that responsibility very seriously, but it is one of the few leveraged times we have.
Leavitt is looking especially at that last bit you said there, saying that Democrats, quote, are now admitting that they are intentionally causing American families to suffer with their reckless government shutdown. What's your response to that?
Well, that is right out of her playbook of half-truths, taking things out of context, and not being straight with the American people. And she knows what I said, and I will tell you and your viewers. This is a point where we can no longer support the budget of the Republicans that takes away health care from millions of people, makes life harder and more expensive for every American, all to give their permanent tax breaks to the very wealthiest while driving up our deficit. We voted no to their budget in March, we voted no to their budget in July, and we voted no to their budget at the end of September. This is exactly what we have been saying to them. They made a promise, the president's words, he would love and cherish Medicaid. They would lower costs for Americans on day one. And what they are doing is the exact opposite. They have taken terrible cuts, not only to the health care for Americans, to the food programs, but also to federal workers. And now somehow we're supposed to believe they are the newfound champion of federal workers and people who work for a living in this country, when we have 60% of households that aren't able to afford the basics. Democrats are saying, come to the table. And to directly answer your last question, I am not going to negotiate on TV when I have Republicans who won't even show up That's not an insult to me. That's an insult to the people who sent them here to represent them, to be their voice in these corridors that are empty of my colleagues. That is just showing absolute disrespect for the hardworking people of this country who are watching this president and his loyalists in Congress make life so hard for them. So that is what this no vote on their budget is about.
I will
it is
say,
about making sure that we address this issue.
Hakeem Jeffries, I will note, has ruled out a one-year extension. So there has been some talk about what will not be accepted. You talked about the things at stake. And we covered certainly what was in that budget and the cuts in that budget. But there's also a lot at stake in this shutdown. And last year there were more than 1.1 million people in Massachusetts using SNAP, which is commonly referred to as food stamps. My colleague John Berman spoke to Democratic Senator John Fetterman this morning about who's to blame in all of this. And here's what he said.
I don't care if it's a Republicans doing that or my own party doing in those things. I think that's the truth, that our government must be open and we can negotiate all of these very important kinds of priorities.
Fetterman said he's fighting for both the 2 million Pennsylvanians who are on SNAP and also the 420,000 Pennsylvanians who are receiving the ACA subsidies that you all are demanding an extension to. And he says it's fundamentally wrong to shut the government down. Which is something Democrats have argued in the past when Republicans are doing it. At this point in time, because of this budget, we hear Democrats saying it's different, it's not fundamentally wrong. Explain that. I mean, why? And why do you think that John Fetterman has it wrong here?
Here's the difference between this shutdown and this administration and from others that I've served under and that we've certainly seen in recent history. We have a president who from the moment he took office has been using the budget, which it is federal law and under the Constitution that we here in Congress set the budget, as his private slush fund. He takes it from programs he doesn't like. He gives it to programs he does like. We've watched this very recently in the Department of Education, where he has decimated special education funding in this country, something that many, many parents and schools deserve and need in order to provide for all of our students. He has done this over and over again. And so at each point in this budget process, we have said you have to abide by the law. You have to respect that we are voted and elected to represent people, and that when Congress sets budgets, setting the levels for SNAP, for our veterans benefits, for healthcare in this country, that is something that you should abide by. Not only does he not do that, he uses his bully pulpit to take more from the American people. So is Senator
Fetterman wrong?
I believe that we are in a situation here where if Senator Fetterman sees no difference in how this administration is approaching this budget and acting lawfully and constitutionally and putting the needs of the American people first, and any other administration, I certainly disagree with him about that. Because what we're seeing here is a Speaker Johnson in the House, when we said we have opposed this budget at every single point. But let's not shut down government. Let's come together and talk about this. His response, he had shut down the House. He has shut down the House and said, I simply don't care. I don't care what happens to federal workers. I don't care what happens to these SNAP programs. I don't care what happens to people's health care. And so the idea that somehow when they control the House, the Senate, and the White House, that this is on Democrats is really a preposterous one to me. And you have seen them try to cover for their inexcusable strategy of taking healthcare funding, of taking food programs away from our kids and our seniors in order to fund tax cuts. That is the strategy. That is what they are doing. And the fact that they are inflicting even more pain and injecting further cruelty by threatening to not repay people federal workers who are working without pay, it just further shows the callousness on which they view working people. At the same time, we have a president who, what is he talking about? He's talking about building a ballroom. Let that sink in for working people in this country.
Democratic Whip Katherine Clark, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Brianna.